Hello. I'm delighted today to be joined by Ariel Bernstein, who is a former IDF combat soldier who took part in the 2014 war in Gaza. He's now involved in campaigning, activism against the occupation and peace generally. Ariel, it's great to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. In relation to what's going on, it's kind of difficult to say, but
of course,
today. Thank you for inviting me.
It's an honour. And I know these are difficult times and these are difficult things to talk about, but we will.
Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, exactly. We'll give it a shot, and this is a very safe, comfortable space for you to speak. Just tell me firstly about your experiences then. You were a soldier back in 2014, and it was a very different kind of war conflict. This is on a whole new level, no question about that.
Yeah.
But just tell me, what's your kind of abiding memory from that experience? What was the key lessons you learned from that experience?
Yeah, so I served between 2012 and 2015 in a reconnaissance unit called Sayarat Nakhal. And I was, before entering, we had another operation that was quite large, but nobody remembers because what we call protective edge, Sukeitan, or the 2014 war, kind of overshadowed the other operation that came before, which was called My Brother's Keeper, in which we searched in the West Bank for the bodies, what became known to be the bodies, but were kidnapped teenagers. And during those weeks of being in the West Bank, just to give you like kind of the mindset that I entered Gaza with, we were told we're searching for these teenagers, but we were also taking advantage of this moment where there's like public legitimacy to display power and more force in the West Bank. So we were basically searching for them, but also demonstrating our presence, our power, and also searching for any clue, for anything suspicious, which is basically anything that you decide is suspicious. And so for weeks during this operation, I don't remember exactly how many days, I was a commander and I was choosing homes to enter and to invade and to search, which basically means to enter a house in the middle of the night of a family, flip all the furniture, terrify the family, not find anything usually because you're just choosing homes randomly and move on. When the idea is kind of we will display our force and then they will regret ever like basically fucking with us. And doing these missions as a commander already started to really bother me, and I started to question the whole mission that we were doing. But then Hamas started shooting rockets from Gaza, and we are told that we're preparing for an invasion into Gaza. And I come with all these questions and a feeling that I'm not very motivated or not really believing in this kind of system that I'm serving. So entering Gaza was already something that was kind of complicated for me because I wasn't sure I believe in it, and what we're doing. But I was so committed to my teammates or my unit mates, the guys that were serving with me, which are still good friends until today, even though I'm an anti-occupation activist. I felt like I don't really have the option to not go in. So entering already was kind of a complicated moment for me. And every time there is a war in Gaza, we can speak more about what I saw and what I did and what I think about it, but every time there's an escalation, it's not like there was 2014 and now the 7th of October 23. Every year in Israel, we have what we call a round of violence, which is a normalized way of calling basically aggression, escalation, war, violence. Every time this happens, which is quite often, it brings me back to that moment where we crossed the fence into this place that we've never been into, and we only heard scary things about where everybody inside are terrorists that want to kill you. So physically, just to answer your question simply, when I see these images, it really has an effect on me every time there's an escalation.
Brings us to that point about civilians, I suppose, because you said, you kind of what's driven into your heads is that these are terrorists or extremists, and we've heard I suppose, from senior Israeli politicians talking about things like human animals, that there were no innocents in Gaza, as the former foreign minister Avigdor Lieberman was it, for example. The Israeli president, I suppose, talking about collective guilt, that kind of stuff. I mean, you wrote in the Guardian article, really good, brilliant Guardian article you wrote, since the Israeli military had ordered civilians to leave the neighbourhood, anyone who remained was, so we were told, a Hamas operative and supporter, and therefore a legitimate target. I'm just interested in that, because obviously, in terms of the rules of war, that isn't how the rules of war work in terms of international law, Geneva conventions. But so I'm interested kind of how that was expressed and how that actually played out on the ground.
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't really know exactly what the laws of war, international laws of war are. So it's hard for me to tell, especially even now as an activist, but especially as a soldier, you have no idea about it. Nor do the commanders probably. But there's a logic behind the way we fight in Gaza. The way I experienced it, and I don't think it changed ever since, is that you tell the residents of a certain neighborhood that you want to fight in, or that you want to conquer, that you're coming in, and they have to leave. They have an X amount of time to leave. So once you warn them, in your eyes, whoever stayed is either actively participating in the war as a Hamas member or collaborating because we told them to leave. So once you warn the population, this area becomes a battleground. It's not a neighborhood anymore, at least in your eyes as a soldier. You did your part, or you did what you needed to do to tell them to get away. So if they stay, it's their fault, and you don't really stop to think about that too much.